We actually got a lot of stuff done today. We got busy working. The transmission is now completely reinstalled. We we replaced all of the transmission bolts because not a single one was right. Not a single one. We replaced the bolts used holding the battery tray bracket in. Not one of those was right. The transmission mount was damaged and was missing rubber. And we also replaced the one shifter bushing was shot. We replaced the clip that holds the cable in there. Right now we're down to the point where everything else is good. We actually have now a temperature sensor over here on this side now finally. This stuff's such a mess, so I'll probably squirt a little bit of WD-40 in here, clean this end out, and then I can actually plug that into the temperature sensor now. Like I said, the axles are back in. We put washers on the axle nuts. This is some of the parts that we actually pulled out of this thing on the place so far. I'm going to be replacing this bracket. I mean, you can straighten it out, but I have one accessible, so I'm just gonna replace it on this. Here's the fork. Here's the transmission mount. I mean, this thing got reinstalled with half the rubber missing out of it. I mean, it was just, that was out when they put the tranny back in. That was out. Here's the temperature sensor. All right. I got various bolts in here that are bad. Here is the clip that they had for the shifter cable. Here is what they were using for a shifter bushing. This looks like a grommet for, I think it is. This is actually the grommet that comes with the valve cover. I don't know why this bolt was loose on this car. No clue. But that's what that is. That's they had this for a shifter cable bushing. So we have all that stuff together right now. Everything seems to be okay. We got brand new fluid in the transmission. There was like 1.5 quarts of fluid left in the trans. So it was a giant mess. Get the turbo installed that we have for the car. And we did remove the exhaust that was, the poor exhaust that was installed. And install the DNA exhaust that we had ordered. We actually did a video unboxing of that. This is the car that it was for. So let's take a quick look at our exhaust back here. All right, this is what we got. This is after the quote-unquote custom exhaust that was fabricated by a shop at the total cost of $800. And this is the DNA exhaust that was ordered off of eBay. That comes with the bolt-on 3-inch downpipe. That's 3-inch all the way to the rear to where it breaks off to the back. Okay, and this is the quality $800 exhaust that was installed by a professional exhaust shop. They welded on the hangers. They bent the pipe. They welded it all together. They installed a catalytic converter. They installed a sensor here to hold the pipe, along with up here in the front they installed a flex pipe and a downpipe and feverishly attempted to weld it to the pipe that was coming off of the turbo. So we're going to be removing that stuff. We're actually removing this turbo here, and I'll show you what's involved with that. I mean, if you can see here, it looks like our O2 plug for the bank one sensor one got melted here a little bit. I tried to chip it off a little bit, so I'm gonna have to fix that on the harness here also. So we already have the fuel lines removed. We didn't reinstall the intake because we're going to be doing some stuff here with this core support and the core and our front mount intercooler to make sure that it is properly mounted, along with repairing some of this other wiring and doing a valve cover gasket on this, because when it was done they didn't seal this here. They've got globs of silicone. You can see that this has oil all over it. So we're going to get that repaired right there. Replace the gasket. Get the rest of this stuff that's involved with the turbo here removed, and I'll show you guys what the new one looks like. You've seen the exhaust. We've got gaskets. We've got exhaust. We've got an O2 housing. Let's get this thing done. You got the chance to see what the turbo and stuff looks like. I basically had this exhaust laying out, and I've already got the other exhaust removed off of the car. So I'm just going to start in the rear and work my way forward, basically just to get this stuff off the floor and out of the way. So we have our tail section here. This is part of the packing supplies that they had on it when they shipped it. So let's just get this tore off the top in case it's in the way for the bumper cover. Now, let me get this exhaust here. Pushed up into the rubbers up underneath. So let's see what this stuff looks like. Alright, I kind of just have it hanging in here. I'm going to grab the gasket, the 2 bolts. I'm going to get that stuff assembled, and then I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to work on laying out the rest of the exhaust underneath the car, moving forward. That way this stuff's just out of my way. Alright, man, hey, we're back at this again. You know, and the worst part is, you know, this stuff, when you're trying to do this and do it so it's even semi-right, I mean, this look, this is, this is what, you know, 15-plus-year-old wiring looks like. It had oil and everything all over it. I'm just trying to clean this stuff up a little bit, get it, you know, I'm rewrapping it here. I'll show you what that stuff looks like here in a second. Just kind of clean this part, get this wire back in this loom here, you know, just try to get it so it looks good again. So the wiring's protected back in the loom, so it's all run the way it's supposed to be when it's getting reinstalled on the car. I mean, ideally, you know, it would be nice to just have all new wiring, or, you know, strip this stuff all out and just replace everything. So, I mean, I did start down here. The TPS sensor was replaced, so there's like a little knot here from where they have it. I think this was extended. So we just, you know, kind of cleaned it up a little bit, rewrapped it, cleaned off some of the, you know, the loose damaged tape, and that's kind of what we're working for here. I mean, the thing of it is when you have that oil on there, the tape's not going to want to stick. You know, you can tell that this loom doesn't even want to fold together no more, just because of how it is. So, I mean, the whole plan is get the tape started and just wrap, you know. Normally you'll see a spot of tape here and there, but I mean, this is gonna help this last a little bit longer, look a little bit nicer. It's just such a time-consuming part of the process to actually go in here and fix some of these cars correctly, so that when you're actually putting this stuff back together, it's doing what it's supposed to do, staying where it's supposed to stay, you know. Yeah, a new harness would definitely be nice, but there's so many things that need to be fixed. All right, so I mean that kind of pretty much finishes that out. You know, that'll be nice coming down to the computer now and the throttle body area to plug that in. I fixed the one up here coming off that's supposed to go to the cam sensor. So when that's laying on there, you know, it's going to go where it needs to be. This one here looks like it was actually replaced onto this harness. I did spray it down, kind of try to clean that area a little bit. So we got to, man, what do we got going on here? They're caught in a fan. This one. Alright, so we have this portion of the harness right here. The fact that this one's cut makes me think that this had a possible watt box wired into this harness at one time. Kind of why this part here was replaced. Why the throttle position control was replaced, because when you wire them in, you end up damaging your harness. So this is kind of soldered. Kind of, I don't know. So I'm going to trim this up. I'm going to get a good proper connection on these two. And I mean, I already got these wires wiped down. So all I'm going to do is that I'm going to put it into the loom, and then, you know, I'll wrap this with tape. That way it's going where it needs to be. It's actually doing what it's supposed to do. And this is still, you know what I mean? These are all just small parts of what it takes to get this thing back to what it needs to be, so that it can be easily worked on and, you know, somewhat reliable for what the car is. So I got lots of this to finish up. I'm sure you'll be able to see it in the video. So back to work here. I just got to keep doing more of the same. Came out pretty decent. You know, at least most of this is going to go where I need it to be. I got to do like one more, wrap a piece of tape around this here yet. Double check some of this. But everything else seems to be pretty decent. So right now what we're going to try to attempt is to, you know, we got this wonderful core support here. So basically we're going to try to tap this stuff around. Get it as straight as we can. You know, maybe tack this stuff back together a couple spots here with some welds. Just to, you know, I mean, it's not getting replaced. So we're just trying to make it usable. At least to the point where it's going to support the radiator and the the big front mount intercooler. I mean, this here is pushed up, so I'm probably going to try to get the whole thing down. So right now we're just going to play with the hammer a little bit. Well, I'm at the point of, I got the valve cover pulled off because I'm going to be resealing that, put a gasket in, but putting all this silicone on your rubber gasket is not how you get this stuff to seal. It actually will cause leaks. And I mean, you know, if you cleaned this up, you could probably reuse it, but as cheap as what they are. So you sit here and you pick all the silicone off of here to get this to seal right. It's just, it's not even necessary. And the funny thing is, now, when you put your valve cover on, you want to put silicone here, 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 and back here. There's none. There's none here on this front side. So, and you can tell, like this little half moon part here, that wasn't pulled out or resealed. That's where you want to put some silicone also. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean everything up. I kind of have the valve cover here, so I'm just going to like keep it laying on top so that it doesn't, nothing gets in here. But this is going to make it a whole lot easier if I just lay a couple like rags or something on here. I can reach back, get easier access to everything back here. If I'm pulling anything out, I can take it out around or bring it over top and have more room between the cowl panel to actually remove this turbo. So that's pretty much going to be our next step here. Well, we're working on, best way to say this, getting these wonderful bolts out that hold the turbo in. So we actually got the downpipes off. grab that so you can see what a wonderful pipe that is. So now you can actually see some more of these wonderful welds. They kind of just beat this pipe together here down on top, and then they tried to weld it onto here. Did you ever see such a thing? Anyone ever see such a thing? Look at that. Looks like they heated it there with a torch and beat on it with a hammer a little bit. Just unbelievable. Alright, so we're down to, okay, so I got the hose. It's just the drain hose is held on by a clamp. And it pulled off extremely easy. Like, it's the wrong size hose, and it's the wrong hose, I would say, for this, because it's really mushy. The oil feed line actually unscrewed pretty easily, so I mean, you have that. So we're down to our last of the 4 bolts that hold this onto the manifold right now. Let's see. Oh, comes right out by hand. There. Alright, so here is the houdine, whatever that is. That's scratched on there. So the turbo's off. Alright, let's take a look down in here since I got the lighting on in here now. You can kind of see the manifold there. It looks like it goes down. It has the wastegate toward the bottom. Some kind of, I don't know, some weird pipe setup going on right there. So what we need to do is we need to get these bolts out of the manifold that's holding it to the engine. And then we can get that thing off. And we can get the solid manifold to put on there that's actually a lot better setup. I mean, it's a cheaper one, but it's still going to be a whole lot better than what's on here. And it's going to work. It's no matter what we're doing here now, everything that we're doing is definitely an upgrade. The manifold, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bolts, okay? These were the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bolts that we removed. And if you look, I'm not quite sure. This looks like, honestly, I think this came from a Jeep. This is an intake bolt that's missing from the front. This right here, no clue what that came from. Here's another spacer off of like a Jeep manifold. And that one actually looks like a OEM header bolt. Here's another spacer, an OEM header bolt. This right here, not sure where it came from. So we got 2 washers on this, or 1 washer. Yeah, there we go. This is a pointed bolt from something, who knows. We have another one of those. It's actually kind of seized onto that one. Not manifold bolts. Not at all are they manifold bolts. All right, now on top of that, we had, I think that one's 12. We had 13s. And we had 10s. So we had a multitude of different bolts holding this manifold in here. So I'm going to stick you back on the tripod. And check this out. Okay. See if we can get this thing out of here. Yep, there we go. Okay. Now that we have the manifold removed, we can see it looks like this was leaking all the way around here. It looks like it actually had, would that be cylinder number 1? Was not leaking. We have cracks here, cracks here, cracks there. You can see it come the whole way around here. This right here had a big gap, was leaking. I mean, this is covered with black soot, so something's leaking there. I mean, what is this? Somebody ground the heck out of that. man, what a shame. This is sad. Oh, it actually looks like this might be leaking down inside here. So that's actually the wastegate that's leaking. It's going to get a little hard to get you down in here, but let's see if this thing even had a gasket. Oh, found one. Here we go. There's the gasket. That's the side that was toward the head. That's the side that was toward the manifold. We definitely had problems. Alright, where I left these guys off yesterday was we were really close to actually doing a test fire. So, I hooked everything up. I primed the fuel, made sure I didn't have any leaks in the fuel system. Or actually, before I did that, I cranked everything over to make sure that I had all the fresh oil running through, or had oil running through. I wanted to double check to make sure that I didn't have any leaks on the oil feed and drain line. Okay, so I actually got that done. Then I installed the relay for the fuel, just to double check. I have fuel line ordered. I'm going to be upgrading that and getting rid of this mess. It's just terrible. So, with that, we actually got to the point where I got the cold pipe installed. I ended up fabbing up the wastegate pipe here. I just did something real quick here for an overflow for this car. Like I said, I can only do what I'm allowed to do. So this car is actually a whole lot better than what it was. So I'm going to pull you off the tripod. I'm going to show you some of the stuff underneath. And that way you can get a look at what the DNA exhaust actually looks like when it's installed. And yeah, I mean, let's see this. Good old muffin. Come to hang out. Get away. So the cold pipe's in. Hot pipe's in. Alright. We have our external wastegate pipe. I actually used the 2 pieces, actually 3 pieces. I cut that one off and then used the old piece and then stuck the piece I cut off of that one is actually down here on the bottom so that it exits out the bottom of the car. Hopefully, I mean, I would have liked another inch to get it down, but you can see there's our down pipe for our O2 housing. You can look up through on the other side. You can see the charge pipe goes up through, and then there's a 45-degree silicone elbow up there. We actually have our O2 sensor is plugged in. You can see, oh, you can really see the elbow here now. Right there's our charge pipe. Here's our exhaust. It did come over to the right just a little too far, but I couldn't really do too much with it. And that's no fault of the exhaust. I have to adjust it back there a little bit to get this up some more, back there in front of the tank. But the tailpipe seemed to fit out quite well, out through. So, I mean, decent fitting exhaust if the O2 housing wasn't placed too far toward the passenger side. But, you know, this isn't a direct bolt turbo kit for this car, so you kind of had to make do with what you had and make stuff up, which I'm not really a fan of personally. So let's take a look at what the exhaust is going to look like from the back. There's our tailpipes coming out. There's Muffin coming to say hi. Fits up pretty good. Like I said, I'm a little low right here in front of the fuel tank, if you can see that. Like I said, everything kind of fit up, sized up really nice, centered out really well. So, I mean, I'm happy with how the exhaust went on. Right now, I'm at the point where all I have to do now is readjust that exhaust a little bit, and we are going to give this thing a fire up and see how it sounds, and double check our clutch to make sure it's disengaging properly and maybe adjust that. And then we can pull this thing out of here. I'm sure she'll take off and run long before we get to that point, but it's nice to have somebody come and visit. All right, here we go. Let's see how this thing sounds. have any vacuum lines hooked up at all. So nothing's hooked up like that. I mean, basically, I'm smelling fresh gaskets, that type of a smell. But so far, like, everything's pretty decent. Nothing's on the ground. It's empty. Alright, well, I got the clutch pivot rod adjusted to where I liked it, to be able to the feel for the clutch in the white car. We started it up. I did let it run for quite a bit, brought it up to temp. Fans were kicking on. We had no leaks. The floor is pretty much clean. I mean, look, we have one little spot. And that car was probably running in here for, man, half hour, good half hour straight. And that's it. So, I mean, compared to when it first came in here, it goes in and out of gear now. It has no exhaust leaks. The transmission's not leaking all over the place. So, I mean, it was definitely a thumbs up. I still have to do a couple things yet. I did order some fuel line because I'm going to upgrade the fuel system, and I do have to run the vacuum lines on that. So maybe I'll make a video on running the vacuum lines on a big turbo. But I'm going to finish this up, man. That's the turbo install on the on the white SRT4 that should not be fixed. So it's one step closer in the correct direction of being something worth doing more to make it nicer now. So thanks for watching. We're out.